Let's start the Personnel Committee meeting today, November 9th, 2020. The time is 6:30. We have 5 items on the agenda. We will start with order number 20-100-8132, communication from Mayor Vigent with the appointment of Barbara Pellegrini Allen to the Commission on Disabilities for a 3-year term, effective date of the council confirmation. So we will start with Barbara, if she is remote today. I believe that your video is frozen, but we can hear you, correct, Barbara?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is, if you can hear me, hopefully this will work.
Perfect. We can hear you. So, Barbara, if you'd just like to tell us a little bit about yourself, why the Disabilities Committee, and it looks like you have some quite of experience in that realm. So if you want to give us some insight on that, that would be great.
Sure. I'm currently a licensed rehabilitation counselor in the state of Massachusetts and a nationally board certified rehab counselor and a board certified disability case manager. I've been in my profession doing rehabilitation counseling and disability case management since 1981. I recently retired a couple of years ago to help take care of my late mom. But being retired now, one of the things I wanted to do was to still utilize my skills from the disability and rehabilitation community. I used to have a private practice for about 15 years as a rehabilitation counselor, and I also was an expert witness in federal and state disability cases. So I did counseling, case management. Most of my clients that I worked with were adults who were injured through workers' compensation or on long-term disability, and I did coordination of their medical and rehabilitation all the way from when they first got injured through assisting them back into reemployment. So a lot of medical case management, counseling, litigation work, coordination with medical providers and employers and schools. So it had a broad range.
Excellent. It sounds like you have pretty well knowledge in the area. Does any other counselors have questions? Counselor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Hi, Barbara. How are you doing?
Hi.
Hi. As far as your experience in the office, what sort of issues were you addressing as far as disabilities? What's the scale, of what would have been done?
Well, a lot of my experience was on an individual case, one-on-one experience with individuals with disabilities, and went all the way to a broad spectrum of, I'm a past president of the Massachusetts Rehab Association, and I also served, I believe, during the Mitt Romney years as a board member of the subcommittee for the Industrial Accidents Council, the Board of Disability Workers' Compensation, Department of Industrial Accidents. So regulations to help employers and businesses and injured workers deal with resolutions in terms of rights and responsibilities, that when somebody got injured, what kind of medical care they got, what kind of assistance they got through their rights under workers' compensation to return to work. I would do job analysis of an employment site to see what modifications we could do, and I coordinate the modifications so that the injured worker could be returned to work. If they couldn't get returned to work, I'd help counsel them and do vocational exploration and sometimes put them in retraining programs and then do job placement. So I would do anywhere from just a brief job modification, buying an ergonomic chair or changing the work site to putting them in a 2-year community college program and then assisting them with job placement assistance.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. I appreciate that. I think I've been on the Disabilities Commission now for 5 years. I think, Barbara's experience would be beneficial. I have to admit, I've known Barbara for about 6 years, but I think she's very passionate about her beliefs, and I think she'd be a great asset to the committee. So.
Excellent. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Landers.
She'd be a great asset to the commission. I think we're very lucky to have someone with her experience, her educational background, and I can just tell her attitude towards things. I think it'd be a real plus to have her aboard. So I certainly would support this
Excellent.
appointment for 3 years.
That's great. I know Barbara in the outside world as well, and she's always been nothing but pleasant. Is there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, Councilor Perlman. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. I also want to echo the sentiments. I think Barbara has such a wonderful background for this particular commission and clearly has such a passion to utilize her experiences and expertise and give back to the city of Marlborough. So really appreciate having this opportunity to learn more about.
Samantha, we lost your...
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I was just going to say I had known Barbara and I didn't even know the depth of her experience with the rehabilitation counselor and her different roles leading the association. So I think that she would be a great asset to our city.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Perlman and Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will add to the chorus of gratitude and people who are impressed by Barbara's experience. Barbara, thank you very much for sharing your time and your expertise with the city. I'm sure the commission will be very lucky to have you as a member, and the community is lucky to have you as an advocate. So thank you very much.
And I think that might be it. Is one final, any other questions? Going once, twice? I just need a motion.
Motion to approve.
And I will second that. Is there any other questions or concerns? All in favor? 1, 2, 3. It is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
have a great night,
appreciate your
Barbara.
kind words.
All righty, next up item on the agenda, order number 20-100-8131. It's the communication from Mayor Vigent with the appointment of Mr. Patrick Jones as Finance Director, Treasurer for a 3-year term effective from the date of council confirmation. So if you just want to sit right at the table, and the green light should be on in front of you. Excellent. All righty, my friend. Just take a deep breath in, and you're good. No worries, all right?
We're good.
We'll all get along. All righty. So, Mr. Jones, if you just want to tell us a little bit about who you are, where you hail from, and why Marlborough?
Okay. I think I'll start at a young age. I was always very involved, so I did well with school and I did well with extracurricular activities. I wasn't one of those people who got up at 8 years old and said, I'm going to be a doctor, like some people have the privilege of doing. I sorted through my youth and did a lot of different things. And when I became an adult, I realized that finance and business was really the realm that I wanted to be in. Finance and accounting appeared to be a really good, strong area. I was always very analytical and good with numbers. So I started off in finance and accounting and pursued a degree, which you'll see at Beth Israel Hospital. I learned a lot during that job, and I had the opportunity to really begin to grow. I left Beth Israel Hospital and wanted to pursue a stronger, more reporting and higher level position and to enter into management. So I moved on and started in property accounting. I was able to have a transitional skill set that could take what I learned and cross over to industries. So if you move forward on my resume, you'll see that I spent a few years in the home services area, and then I went on to construction and real estate. And I think why Marlborough? I think I'm a strong candidate for being able to adapt. In my career, I've been a critical thinker. I think the city of Marlborough, when I was doing some research, appealed to me because they've worked very hard to get a AAA bond rating, and I know the hard work that it's taken for the city to achieve that. in being able to grow in my own career, I've had to focus, think critically, and be able to adapt. Because I also have background in the town of Auburn, city of Marlborough, town of Auburn, I feel that I could utilize a lot of that experience to help me on board. So I just feel that my background leads me to think that there are some areas in municipal, there's a lot of fiscal jobs across the state, but I think there are various people that have to come with a bit different background and a different set of skills, and I thought that I applied at Marlborough because I thought that it would be a good fit.
Sure. Thank you for that. If I could just follow up with that. So you have quite a bit of experience in the public sector, but as far as municipalities, can you touch upon what you've done with the town of Auburn? Just because I know that the requirements for the job is 5 years progressively responsible, so how involved were you when it came to, because it looks like you were on a committee, correct?
Sure. I was on the finance committee for 5 years through 5 town meetings. My chair had placed me on a couple of subcommittees, so I gained a lot of experience in the budget process. So some were a success and some weren't, so I learned, how hard it is to work on something. We had brought a charter review committee forward, and we worked really hard only for us to realize after a couple of years of a lot of hard work that there was still some unfinished business and it got rejected. So I know the feeling of doing that hard work. On the flip side, we did an ambulance review committee with 2 other cities, and what we were able to do is go into a contract to generate additional revenue. Because I was working in that realm, it gave me the opportunity to understand a lot closer how contracts are formed, how they need to be vetted, and how they come to fruition. The budget process, I think, in most municipalities is identical. You have 3 stages to a budget process, so I was able to adapt and learn to be able to handle all of that. I think the one thing that I enjoyed the most was, what I tend to do is notice trends. So at the time when I was on the finance committee, there was a new school was being developed, which I know Marlborough has just finished. But we also, banks were looking at compensating balances, and there was a lot of opportunity. So I actually worked directly with the treasurer's office and was a conduit from the finance committee. The chair of the finance committee actually directly appointed me to that board. And what we were able to do was get the banks to do compensating balances so that we could have a better benefit on behalf of the citizens of the town.
Okay, thank you.
So as a finance committee member, I didn't just pretty much appear at meetings and then go home. I felt that it was important to continue and try to work in the town as much as I could.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any other questions from councilors? I will open it up. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So you've been working at Architectural Electronics from 2004 to now, right?
That's correct.
How big was the business when you started?
The business was about $5 million. I can give you a brief summary. It was about $5 million in revenue. It was about 18 employees. When I started with Architectural Electronics, the housing boom was taking off and the AV industry was exploding. So I could see very quickly that they were going to grow. And at the time, I went as an accounting manager. And in 7 years, we grew to over a $14-15 million company with 70 employees. And I was able to help establish and build the structure and put it in place for them to grow.
Okay.
The housing bubble burst.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens.
And you know what happened. And then all of our work had to be unraveled. And we had to sit there and take the company back down to a $4 million, 20-employee company. And unfortunately, I had to do my own succession plan and realize that my job at the time was also a job that had to be outsourced. And that's what put me in a position to come forward and look for the position that I found at Marlborough, the city of Marlborough.
Okay. As far as being on the Finance Committee, FinCom for Auburn, is there a stipend with that, or is it volunteer?
It was volunteer.
Okay. How many members on the committee?
There were 5.
Okay.
6, actually. There were 5 of us and 1 at large. I'm sorry.
Okay.
5 precincts, 1 at large.
Okay. Is it voted, or is it nominated by the selectmen?
The selectmen, the selectmen had
Point.
the vote, yeah.
Okay.
We did all the recommendations. The selectmen voted on it.
Right, but who votes? The selectmen vote the Finance Committee into position?
Yes.
Okay.
appoint, right, they
Yeah.
appoint us.
Okay, okay. I think you definitely have a pretty diverse background, and some solid financial experience. Marlborough's much bigger than anything you've seen so far, so we'll see how that works out. So, but best of luck.
Thank you.
Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, what I see here, Mr. Chairman, I see a gentleman that has quite a varied background, all the way from hospitals up to construction, up to plumbing, some municipal experience with the being on the Finance Committee and Sutton there. And I think that's the key. I don't think there's one facet of finance that you probably, if you didn't know, you'd know how about getting in there. And I can just tell from hearing you talk that you're not the type of guy that wouldn't be asking questions, whether it was from the auditor or the mayor, your staff within your department, So as I mentioned to you earlier before the meeting, I think you'll find Marlborough, a very interesting community. There's always a lot going on. And I think you're a pretty lucky guy in a way with all the crazy things that are going on with the virus. You're coming into a city that has a triple A rating. That's not bad. I mean,
It's very good.
Could be a little different if we were the other way, So I think, again, you're gonna, and I like to use this word, former accounting teacher, I think you're gonna be an asset to the city of Marlborough. That's all I
Thank
can
you.
say, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to mention that was part of what appealed to me. I found that I've had the privilege in my career to work for some really strong people, some strong leaders, and some strong teams. And that was something I had done some homework on when I was researching, and I realized that that strength is something that I felt that I wanted to be a part of. It spoke highly of the town, that there was a high retention rate for employees that were here. In interviewing them, I was able to assess their knowledge base, and I felt like it was something that I could work with.
One other point I'd like to mention that I think I mentioned to you a little bit before. You're going to find Marlborough unique. You're going to find a group of department heads. I don't care if it's the fire chief, chief of police, the head of the Department of Public Works. You're going to see that we have this, maybe it starts at the top, I'm not sure, but we have that feeling that we're all going to work together, and I think that's why, I think Marlborough's a pretty great city. So you're gonna find that people will take you under their wing. They're gonna share a lot with you, and I think you're gonna find Marlborough's a pretty unique town. That's all, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Is there any other questions before I let the mayor speak? No? Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, members. It's a really exciting day. Obviously, we've been looking for a finance, head of our finance team now for a little bit of time, and for one reason or another, they didn't work out for us, or we didn't work out for them. But when Patrick came down and we had a sit-down and discussion, he first passed the muster with Steve Cirillo, who's been with us now for about 9 months, and Diane Smith, and we talked about the fact that, Patrick didn't have a lot of municipal experience, but he had a big financial background, which is so important, and it brings some diverse, new information and new ideas to us that maybe sometimes you get stale if you keep doing the same thing over and over. And actually following in the steps of, Tom Abel, that was here for a number of years, and Tom Wellen before him. So we had two people that were in the private industry that came over here and ended up staying a long time. I think what Patrick has picked up over the last couple of weeks has been phenomenal. And it is important. I know that Councilor Landers brings it up all the time, of trying to hire from within. And we have right now 3 different people in the city going to finance courses because we want to start, giving them the information they need to start growing in those positions, rather than just sitting there for 5 or 10 or 15 years and never giving them the opportunity to advance. So we're hoping when the time comes, what, 10, 15 years from now, Patrick?
At least.
When the time comes and Patrick decides to retire from Marlborough, that we have someone coming in and that's all trained and ready to go. And like I said, we had a couple people in last year's program with the MMA and the Collins Center. We have 3 in this year, and we have 2 already signed up for the spring. So we want to keep these people in there. We're using we just hired someone in the assessor's office that is going to be starting some training down there. So we're really trying to get people so we are having the knowledge to take that next position. So, but I'm really excited to have Patrick on board. He's done a great job for the last couple of weeks. He's been going through drawer by drawer up there, and Steve Cirillo is going to stick around with us for a little while to make sure, we get everything on track before he just walks away from what we have going right now. We got a great team in place. Eileen's up next, and she's been invaluable the last 9 months to us, being the acting treasurer, but we have a good team in place, and I think Patrick's going to fill that gap that we have, and I ask for your support for him.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other counselors? No? Okay, Mr. Jones, I will say that when I received your resume and going through the job description, I had my reservations, only because this is going to be a big jump. I think if you started in a town or a smaller city, I think the transition would be a lot easier for you. However, the mayor's a CPA. I've met with Ms. Smith numerous times, and she's very patient and understanding, especially when it comes to my budget questions. I would recommend to utilize their resources, and I hope that you're hungry to learn, because it's going to be a lot of information. Working on the finance now for 3 years committee, I'm still lost when it comes to things, and it's not my job full-time. But since we are so conservative with our budget, and the city council definitely goes through the budget, I'm happy that you're on board, and I wish you nothing but the best with this position. Moving forward, if there's anything else, I will like a motion.
Motion to approve Patrick Jones.
I will second that. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? All righty, all in favor? That's 3-0. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Best of
gentlemen,
luck.
ladies.
You'll be seeing Patrick around once everyone comes back to City Hall on a regular basis. He's here all the time, so
Thank you.
thank you very much.
All righty, the next item on the agenda is order number 20-100-8119, the communication from Mayor Vigent with the appointment of Eileen Bristol for a 2-year term effective date of council confirmation. Thank you for coming in today, Mrs. Bristol. If you just want to tell us your experience with your position and what's going on, and how you enjoy it.
Well, I've been with the city about 4.5 years. Previously, a collector treasurer in another community for 6 years, plus I worked on grants for 4 years prior to that. So we've been working really hard in our office to make sure things have become more efficient over the years. We've cross-trained so that there's never a concern if I'm out of the office, my staff is out of the office. We can all pretty much fill in for each other. I do have some things that I can only do, but for the most part, on a daily basis, we're okay if one person's out for a little bit. I love my job. I'm happy to be here. It's been, with the COVID, it's been a little difficult, but I think that it's been beneficial in the aspect of our new lock boxes in the front and back of the building have been fantastic. I'm so thankful they're there now. They're out 24 hours. People are utilizing them. We're getting a lot of payments that way. Our online through Invoice Cloud has picked up tremendously. I did a little look over the last 10 days. We've had over 1,041 transactions with 1.3 million coming in through our our online service, which is great. So it's, it's going well, though. I think we're doing good. I'm working on trying to get my staff into some training. Unfortunately, the Mass Collector Treasurers canceled classes because of COVID, but hopefully this coming year we'll be able to get the staff starting to go to some schooling.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that you love your job.
Yes.
Is there any other questions from the councilors? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Brian, for a minute. So what sort of, you're working for treasurer. What's your official title, by the way? It's collector, right?
It's tax collector, yep.
Tax collector, okay. How many people mail in versus Dropbox versus electronic? You know what the ratios are for something like that at this point?
It's hard to say. I mean, we have, our lockbox service, it's sporadic. I mean, a lot of time, we still get a good amount here at City Hall. Our lockbox does take a large amount, though.
Yeah.
Online, we're still working on getting our numbers up more online, but it's been helpful because right now, if you use your checking account information, it's free. So we're really trying to push that for people, and it's a quick way to do it. It happens within the next day it's posted to your account. Lockbox can take a little longer because obviously if people don't put the correct information, it gets bounced back to us. So we get a lot back from Lockbox too. But I'd say Lockbox probably right now takes in the most as far as payments.
Okay. I do appreciate to have people working for the city that enjoy their work and what they do. It's good to find people that have that opinion, so appreciate the work that you've done, and I'm glad you're coming for more. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Lander.
This is going to be a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I guess what I like, you've kept up with things, you've initiated things, and I hear people talking about that. I mean, in a way, with the virus, we were kind of forced in the front and back and that stuff, but you knew enough to put one in front, one in back, and people notice that, and they really think we're with it, and they said, well, we're not with it, it's the people that do it. So, keep up the good work, and I think it's just wonderful, the changes that you have made. Some you had to make, but it seems like it's working out very well. I don't get any complaints at all. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. And President Ossing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, it's gone under the radar, but I want to acknowledge Ms. Bristol's work as the acting treasurer. The mayor appointed her, as you all councils have seen. It's come through us on numerous times, the 60-day appointments, but for the last 11 months, she's taken that on and done extremely well. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I echo Councilor Ossing's sentiments. So appreciative of all your hard work during this incredibly challenging time. And I just had a question. I'm curious, is there anything that you wish that us as the councilors or us in the public, knew more about your role and your position? Is there something that would help us better understand the work that you're doing?
I think the biggest thing is educating people about our online offerings, that we have that. Also, just the importance of putting information in with your checks, because it would make it easier for everybody. And we've been thinking about putting a flyer of some sort with the bills to go out to all the residents and businesses, just to kind of get that out there. It's really, the lockbox, all the things we offer, I guess, because there's a lot of new stuff we have. So just getting that information out to the public. If you're ever talking to anybody, certainly feel free to mention all the things we have.
I certainly will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman. So use those memo lines in those checks.
That's right.
All right, good to know. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Again, I can't thank Eileen enough for her assistance over the last several months, since the beginning of the year. Stepping in as treasurer, she was qualified to do that, so it worked out great for the city. It gives us an opportunity. This is an office let's face it, people don't like come in and just turn over money, and some come in and, that office handles people pretty well, trying to explain to them why, their bills are going up again, and, it's, not our fault, we're just collecting the money, and they do a great job at it. I have to say, there's been times where my office will be receiving complaint after complaint on a regular basis. And I couldn't tell you the last time that we had a complaint about the collector's office. So it's a great testament to them and what they do down there. And like I said, she's done a great job. I'm not sure if she said about putting the information on the check for me, because I very rarely do that. So I'm going to start doing it for you. How's that? So, but thank you very much, and hopefully she gains your support again.
You got one, Mary. That's a plus, right, for the check. All right. Is there any other questions from the counselors? If not, then a motion.
Motion to approve
Thank you
Eileen
all.
Driscoll as reappointment as tax collector.
And I'll second that. Any other questions? All in favor? 3? 3 has been approved. Thank you for being on the front lines, and have a wonderful night. Thanks for coming in. All righty. Next up on the agenda is order number 20-100, 8120, communication from Mayor Vigent with the appointment of Mary Watson Avery to the Cultural Council for a 3-year term, effective from the date of council confirmation. All righty. Ms. Avery, thank you for your patience with us. And if you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why the Cultural Council.
Thanks for having me. I hope you can hear me okay.
We can, thank you.
Well, I lived in Marlborough for over 18 years, had the real wonderful experience of raising my children here, and the experience they've had of everything from being at the boys club and being at the boys club, playing baseball as little boys all the way through high school, going to the public schools here in Marlborough, and it really it feels like I'm at a point in my life where with them now 20 and 23, I have an opportunity to give back to the city that's given us so much. There was a moment I remember when my younger son was just starting baseball, and he had, and I was working in Boston at the time for Children's Hospital, doing a community outreach program, directing a community outreach program for families. And I had come home from a very hard day, a neighborhood we had worked in had had a violent experience, and it had affected the community greatly. And I remember coming home to Marlborough and watching my then, I guess, 6-year-old boy in the outfield with his mitt on his head, just staring up at the sky. And I thought, I'm so lucky to live in a town where my son feels so safe to have this unguarded moment, this lovely moment. So it's that's first and foremost why I'm interested in giving back to the city. It's also because the Cultural Council specifically is because I'm, in addition to my community work, my work as an educator, I've been a producing artist most of my life. I have a Bachelor's of Fine Arts and have been a member of the White Rabbit Studio in Marlborough for over 8 years, and come from a family that has a music and performing background as well. And absolutely, it's the cultural experience of a city that probably has the strongest place in my heart, and it's a way that I think I can best offer the gifts and experience that I have to the city.
Excellent, thank you. And I just would like to say thank you for reminding me of my traumatic baseball days. Is exactly how I played as well. So thank you for that. Is there any other questions from the council? Counselor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, Mary. I know when you first reached out with interest in the Cultural Council, I'm speaking here both in my other hat as chair of the Cultural Council. It was very exciting to have more artists represented in our group, especially those who've been involved, in the studios here in the community. And I think your background and your passion for the city of Marlborough will definitely bolster up our efforts as we seek to assign grants to different organizations that benefit the arts here in the city of Marlborough. So I'm looking forward for the opportunity to work together with you and your impressive background, and I'm sure you will take our council to the next level. So thank you so much for volunteering your time with us.
Thank you, Counselor Perlman. Anyone else? Counselor Counselor Oram.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Mary, first of all, thank you. And you just got a vote from my son. My youngest son saw you on TV and said, I know her family. So I guess my son knows your sons. And it's a small world is all I can say. It's keep the TV on, but I try not to look at it because it'll throw me off. But just looking over your credentials, we're very fortunate to have you and look forward to seeing you on the Cultural Affairs Council. So thank you is all I can say. Thank you.
Counselor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just have two questions. First is, under education at Harvard, the subtitle is Consequences of Trauma and Violence in the Life of the Developing Child. Was that the topic that you were covering there, or what is, can you get into that in a little more detail?
Sure. I had two sides of my experience at Harvard Graduate School of Education in their Risk and Resiliency department. I had the opportunity to take training there on the experience of trauma and how it affects development across the life cycle, and had the opportunity through another avenue after that to teach for 5 years at Harvard, at the Harvard Graduate School of Education in the Risk and Resilience program, and had the opportunity to work with students from all over the world who were pursuing how they could best help their community and the people in it who may have had to face adversity over time. And so what I often find myself in my work doing is helping people understand how to better employ practices of trauma-informed practice. So really being able to help people think about how all levels of trauma might affect a community. And, I've had the privilege of doing that not only in Massachusetts, but also in Connecticut and some places in the region.
Okay. The other question I had, thank you for the response. I appreciate that. But you were talking about White Rabbit Studios. Can you talk to me more about what that is, as far as I've heard of it before, and what is White Rabbit Studios?
Yeah, very close to my heart. White Rabbit Studios is a part of the Renaissance Lofts, which is up on French Hill, and with the renovation, I don't even know when that renovation started, but it was some time ago. The first owner of that space designated not only a space that was a retail space for a coffee spot, but also behind it studio spaces. And that was amazing news to me as someone who has wanted to have a studio space for some time. And they were being offered at very reasonable prices. And it meant not having to go to Framingham or Hudson or Natick or any of the other places, let alone Boston, to have a space like that. And so I was able to join them in 2012. And really it's just, is it 5 or is it 6? 1, 2, I think it's 6 spaces. And since then, there's been a new owner that came on, I would guess 2 or 3 years ago, and I was really happy that happened and we could stay during the transition. The coffee shop has opened again, and So yeah, it's a really lovely spot. It's a really important space for me.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Councilor Perlman again?
Yes, thank you. And Mary, your comments made me think of another question that I'd be so curious. Thinking through how Marlborough can be an even more arts-friendly community, I'm curious some of the ways that you think that we can improve in that area, and the role of the Cultural Council, or the role of, artists like yourselves, and, the city in promoting the arts.
Thanks for asking that. I think, there's only one part to being an artist, or a craftsperson or a performer, in building your craft and making your work, and building your skill. And really, there are two other parts to that. It's really the ability to be part of a community. The arts are so about an audience, and yet they can feel very isolating. So this idea of being able to connect with other people who are interested in that work, who are making their own work, so people can really grow and feel not so alone, and feel more connected and bounce off of each other. So there's the community piece, and there's also the idea of not just making, but being seen, being heard, and being able to reach an audience. I think that's super important. And I know of many people who have moved to the central part of the state because it's simply too expensive to live closer into Boston. And a lot of those people are artists. A lot of those people are craftspeople, looking for opportunities to not only find space to make their work and to find their work, but also to be seen. And I think there's so many opportunities. This is the flip side of our experience of the last 8 or so months of COVID-19, is that I think there are so many innovative ways to have people's work seen that can be virtual. And even when we go back to being able to see these things live and being each other's presence and have paintings that actually hang on the wall that you stand in front of, I think there's still going to be such an amazing outlet for all sorts of people to have their work seen. Even people, and a special passion of mine is even people who have not thought of themselves as artists before. People who could we celebrate, people that are makers out in the community, gardeners and cooks and quilt makers and all sorts of folks that also represent the really diverse, lovely cultural heritage that is Marlborough. It's one of the things that I have enjoyed the most about living here with my family all these years, is that there are really rich voices that I'd even like to hear more of. So just giving people opportunities to connect and to be seen.
Thank you. It's so nice to hear, especially I know during COVID-19, having the positive impact of art on the community is so important, both for the artists and those who can participate, and especially another reason where Marlborough can become a leader in this space as people are, moving out of Boston and these other areas that are seen as very art friendly, and how we can do that as a community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Yes, Councilor Landers.
Mr. Chairman, I will be really brief on this, but, as you were talking, Mary, we've had a lot going on in Marlborough. We had the downtown village group. We had a couple different groups that they did a lot. It seemed like it was more 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember they had a fundraiser with chairs and painted chairs and all stuff like that. But going back a little further, back, in the 90s and around 2000, we had our own orchestra. This is art, this is culture, and it was fantastic. I still see it on Channel 8 once in a while. They will show a concert that was over where Boston Scientific is now, which was Stratus Computer at the time, And we, the orchestra, I think it was probably 50 or 60 members, and they were great. And geez, we had the fireworks, the William Tell Overture, and stuff like that. Mary, what's your gut feeling? Can we ever bring some of these things back? This symphony orchestra we had, it kind of lost interest in Marlborough, and it ended up in one of my favorite communities, Hopkinton, where I taught for a few years. But could you ever see, you know, I'm talking the arts, you know, the way you people were, but expanding that into other cultural things? And the only reason I bring that up, that, you know, there's still, the school department still has one of the best music programs around. And I think there's a lot of interest in music. So if we could ever go back to tying the music in with the art, you know, I love that little art center down the corner of Cook Lane in East Main Street. I enjoy going in there. And I know Mary at Bumpy's, she has a lot of art hanging up and that stuff. So I think when all this virus stuff ends and we throw our mask away and we have a bonfire, I think the community is going to be ripe to get involved. You know, having nights out and going to something that, you know, your Cultural Affairs group puts on. And that was the name of the group back in the 90s, Cultural Affairs. And it was kind of dynamite. They put on plays and so forth like that. So can you see, Mary, that being part of your future, your committee there? You know, and your other members of the commission, you know?
Well, let's get her on the cultural council first, and then hopefully she can bring some of those ideas.
Well,
to
that's,
the
I'm
actual
dropping the
committee.
hints. That's what I'd like to see her do. That's all, Mr. Chairman. I spoke 2 minutes longer than I wanted to. But that's
Sure. No, it's okay. Let's, Mary, we will spare you that question, and then hopefully once you get on, then you can tell us all about how you can incorporate music in, yeah? So let's make a motion, if we could. I don't think we
Motion
do.
to approve.
I'll second that. Any other questions? All in favor? 1, 2, that's approved, 3-0. All right, Mary, thank you very much. Good luck with we will bring this to the full council for an approval, and then hopefully you'll be on the cultural council. All righty, thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, everyone. That was a delight.
Thank you. All right, last on the agenda, order number 100-8108, communication from Mayor Vigent with the proposed amendments to the City Code, Chapter 125. All righty, we will open it up to the mayor so we can talk briefly about the changes that he would like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I've obviously brought down a number of changes in salary ordinances over the last few years now. And most recently, probably the last 7 or 8 or 10 of them, there's been a clause in there about allowing the administration, the executive office, to waive 2 steps at any time during the employment. I also was under the misconception that we could make some changes to vacation time. So I talked to the president about it, I've talked to some other counselors about it, and it sounded like people were getting a little concerned that we were doing the one-offs, you know, only when I came down for a change. So it was recommended to me to come down for a change of the ordinance, so that's what I'm doing right here. This would allow the mayor to waive 2 steps at any time. Would also allow the mayor to add 1 week's vacation, and anything in addition to the 2 steps or 1 week's vacation would still require a council vote. I think what I found surprisingly was even the council didn't have the right to allow additional vacation time. So this cleans some of that up. We're in the middle of negotiations for a new hire that's an executive. The vacation has become a little bit of an issue because people a lot of times are leaving another community with a number of years and have established 4 or 5 weeks vacation, and we're starting off with 2. So it's been a little glitch along the way. And then, like I said, with the salaries, I try to use the salary ordinances we have in place today rather than come down and ask for an increase for a specific person, because if I do that, I have to actually go out and repost the job. I can't just, change the salary ordinance for one person that I'm trying to hire from outside. So this is cleaning that up. I have no one today that I am planning on using this with at this time. It's not intended to, give more time to someone or to give a salary increase to someone. The ones that I was requesting to do that with, I've told you about when I came down. I think we just did it most recently with one, and I said one of these increases I was planning on waiving 2 steps. You supported that. The other person, I was not going to waive steps, and you supported that also. But there's no one that I'm planning on running upstairs after this is voted on and giving these changes to. It's just to have the tools in the toolbox. Obviously, we have a couple, we have a department head that's leaving us. I'm not happy about it, but obviously, she's done a great job for us, and we wish her all the best. But that's going to be a little bit of a difficult position to fill. We've had a couple interviews, and I don't think anything's turned up so far, but we're hoping for the best over the next week or so. So with that, I would ask you for your support and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will open it up to committee members. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So fundamentally, I agree with I agree with the goals, not necessarily with the structure, okay? I have been in situations in my career where I was negotiating for additional vacation time. So I believe in that as an option and should be available. And also the ability to increase steps in the salary. But my concern is who judges the degree of prior experience. This is not necessarily for you. This is about mayors in general, right? And, we as a council should be providing the checks and balances. So, I have no problems with these being proposed by the mayor and approved by the council, without a doubt. Both of these. I just have concerns and misgivings about having the mayor, any mayor, implement these types of changes, without any type of supervision from the council. So.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I totally understand that, but remember that I spent 18 years down here, so I can totally appreciate what you're saying. You do have a couple of safeguards. One, you have the budget process. So at the end of the year, when we come down with next year's budget, I can't pay someone more than is in that line item. So once I run out of money, that position has to go away. So if you don't fund the increase for the upcoming year, that's one of the safeguards that you have in place. The other safeguard is you can make the proposal and change the ordinance if it's getting out of control or if you feel uncomfortable with it down the line. So you definitely have those safeguards. We do have the opportunity to come down and waive steps now. It's just when you're in the negotiation process, it's a long process. Not because you're dragging your feet or anything like that. It's just the process of government. So it takes a while to do that. That's why this would give the administration the opportunity to do this when it was needed. And like I said, you cut the funding in the position, that will control one of the issues you have. And if it looks like an administration is taking advantage of this, you change the ordinance.
If I could interject, I don't think we as counselors will know if it's being abused because it's such a one-line item thing. I think you're asking us to now babysit the department heads or the mayor per each job. For an example, I don't think I'm not going to know how much the comptroller makes on a yearly basis. So if it goes up 2 steps based upon them, I'm not going to know that. And I think the expectation for us to know that is a little out of reach, in my own opinion. I think that upon approval of hiring, I'm okay with going up a step, maybe 2, but I don't think it would be fair for us as counselors to remember if a new mayor comes in and they can give raises across the board based upon their appointments of who they are friendly with. I don't think that, it's just another way for us to monitor who's getting what where, if that makes sense
Yep,
to
I
me.
understand.
You know, again, because I like the idea of having checks and balances. It's not here to control you as the mayor. It's to see where the money is going, and once we have that request, we know where that money is going now. Because again, I forget everything. And for me to remember what happened last budget cycle and who got paid what, I'm not going to go back and check that personally. You all may. I know, President, you probably will. However, I know
I guarantee you he will.
I know he will. But I know how busy my personal life is and my full-time job and everything else that I do. I know that I personally won't do that. So again, for full transparency, I don't think that I want to be held accountable for that, when that should be something that's coming from the mayor.
And I understand that. Again, I was down here for a long time, so I understand that. If it would make you more comfortable, I would ask that you put in here a sunset clause that after, that goes away automatically in, a year or 2, if it's not reconfirmed by the council. So 2 years from now, or 1 year from now, council feels like it wasn't utilized properly, it automatically goes away, and unless you guys take another vote. So this entire language will go back to the way it was. Like I said, I'm just trying to, those positions, I was really excited for a couple days that we had the department heads all filled, and then Lynn came up to see me. So it's just difficult when you're hiring some of those people that, just to give us the opportunity, but I'll leave it to the council.
I'm going to go to Councilor Landers first for committee members.
Well, okay, I guess if I have your permission, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the mayor maybe a couple of questions too.
Of course.
Mr. Mayor, have we lost out on some good candidates because of vacation? That doesn't look, I'll get to that in a second, but have we lost out on some good candidates that we could have or should have hired because your hands are tied or the salaries aren't high enough? I mean,
I could tell you realistically, and the HR director can verify it, and maybe even the auditor can verify it, but I believe there were 4 candidates, 3, I believe 3 were because of money and 1 was because of vacation, that we lost out on. Now, I do want to clarify.
and that concerns me, but we'll get to that in a minute.
2 steps would not have made the change in those 3
Probably not.
candidates.
Right.
Probably not.
The other one with the
Thank you
vacation,
for
maybe
that.
it would have, but,
Right.
we definitely lost out on 4 candidates earlier in the year.
Vacation, I'll be honest with you, isn't a problem for me because most positions we're talking about are professional positions. And these people are going to come on board and, they're used to having 3 to 4 weeks somewhere else. So when we bring them on board, vacation in a way, unless it's the buyout when they leave, really doesn't cost you anything because usually if that human resource person comes in and there's a battle over 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that person, they're going to be professional enough. They're going to put the number of hours in necessary to do that job. In April and May, they're going to work hard to get information ready for your budget, So, in a way, vacation, if that was a problem negotiating, making the final decision someone was coming, whether you give them 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that would never be a problem for me, because it's not a costly thing unless when they leave, it's a buyout situation. As far as salary, you know, we had a couple of things that come up over maybe the last year or so. And I think someone mentioned to me, well, what do you want to do, Don? Give everybody a raise. But not really. But I think there's some positions, all right, that if I see that, you know, we lost 3 people because of the amount of salary, well, you know, as a city, we're not watching the market out there. And I hate to think that we're losing some good people, you know, over maybe $10,000. Because in relative terms, you know, 10,000 is, and it's not a situation, it's like your union contracts, because you pay one department head a certain position. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to give it across the board. Some administrative, some department head positions are worth more than others. And, you know, we always hear the comments, and, you know, I hate to name positions, but you talk about the superintendent, the chief of police, and the fire chief. You know, they're all together different. But, you know, they all do pretty well, and damn it all, they deserve to do very, very well. But I'm not so sure if we don't shortchange some of the other department heads and administrative positions. So I think back a few months ago when we were talking about a few things, someday, I think I made the comment on the floor, I'm not sure, that we should maybe look at the whole salary, non-union salary spectrum. And not necessarily end up giving everybody a raise, but that's why I'm asking the question, Mr. Chairman, have we lost good candidates because of that? And the answer was, yeah, we probably lost 3 good ones because of salaries and 1 of vacation.
And if I could just and I think to go back to that, the mayor said yes, but the step difference would not probably have mattered. I think what the issue is we're not competitive as a whole. I have the finance director treasurer step program from 1 to 7, and each step is about a $2,000 difference. So if you go up 2 steps, it's about $4,000. So if someone doesn't take the job, well, I don't think they'll not take it over $4,000. I think it's because our base competitive rate probably isn't high enough compared to their surrounding cities and towns.
Yeah, well, if a lot of these people are coming west of Marlborough, all right, our salaries aren't probably as bad. A lot of these smaller towns, they pay, well, they're towns, and their budget is a lot less, their number of employees are a lot less. But if you're trying to hire someone east of Marlborough coming out, salaries are a little different.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
If I might, I just want to let everyone know, I'm very appreciative on the changes that the council has made that I have recommended down here on different salaries. And we've changed the finance team a couple of times, so I really appreciate that. If we had taken that step back last January, if I had requested it last January, you know, who knows? But I'm telling you that, you know, we're fortunate right now, but again, this is just one of the tools in the toolbox, so.
What I'd like to prevent, Mr. Chairman, you know, somewhere along the line, that we get someone come in, say a 3-year contract, you know, in the first year, I don't care, most of these positions, takes you a while, takes you a year to get to know the city and the position. Then the second year, you're feeling pretty good. Third year, you feel so good, but now I'm gonna apply for that other community that pays $15,000, $20,000 more. Not that we can always match it, you know. What I don't like is the turnover. You know, thank God the school department has settled down. And I think the present superintendent, you know, he's going to be here for a while, which is good. You know, way back, we had a superintendent that was here for 22 years, and then 13 years, and then we had one 5 years, and then we had one every other year. So what I'd like to do is, you know, when we hire people, that they're gonna do more than their first year contract, first 3 or 5. And, you know, things come up. I know family situations come up, but we make the job interesting enough, attractive enough, that when they come, they want to stay here.
Thank you. I would like to do Personnel Committee first.
I'll let them go first, because I've been waiting for a while.
Okay.
I already had a chance to speak.
Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a couple of questions through you to the mayor or whoever is able to answer, but my first, I really do echo the sentiments of Councilor Landers. I do think that it seems like we need more of a systemic approach to look back and make sure that the salaries that we're offering in the vacation is competitive with other surrounding communities or like-sized communities, because it does seem like this is coming up a lot. People are excited to be in Marlborough and to be part of our community, but then we're not really meeting the mark when it comes to the benefits that we're providing those employees. So I would love, in the future, if we could get some sort of analysis of all of our major non-union positions just to see how they compare to other like communities. And then similarly, I'm curious, with the comments made by, Chair Dumas and Councilor Doucette, I really feel like there wouldn't be an adequate way to see how the step in the vacation allowance would be allocated to different candidates. And I would be maybe concerned that it wouldn't be equitable only if people advocated and knew that they could maybe have a salary. Salary negotiation is challenging for women candidates, and as well with the vacation, I wonder if that would play out differently depending on who knew to ask for more funding. So I don't know, Mr. Mayor, if you could speak to maybe in what circumstances this would be applied, whether it's based on past experience in the municipal government, or what would be the mark for why someone would receive the 2-step increases or additional vacation.
Well, I could tell you that the candidates that we were looking at to do a lateral movement, I'm just going to pull the comparable communities that I usually look at, the Leominsters of the world, the Shrewsburys of the world, communities like that, where obviously you want the lateral movement from a community like that, or someone that's maybe the number 2 person there. But they're not going to jump for the same salary. So that now we talk about bringing someone up that's maybe a little more junior in a different position. Maybe they're the assistant in the HR department and not the HR director themselves. The other thing we found this time, and it's probably happened, I'm going to say a half dozen times, and I'm looking back at the auditor again, we had a lot of applications from schools, from people working in different school systems. And we all know that schools pay a lot more than the city side. The finance people, the head of the schools, the HR departments, the IT everyone makes more in the school systems. That's the way it is. So we had a number of applicants. We had, one call today that was coming over from a school and called and canceled the interview because they said, I'm making more than that now, so I'm not willing to make the transfer over to the city. But I also don't want to get in bidding wars with other communities. So the best way to do it is to work with the MMA and the Collins Center and try to get some training programs out there, so we're bringing our own people up. But in the meantime, we have to be able to fill these positions with qualified people. When we're running close to a $200 million business, I can't have an HR director that has no experience. Even though they may be, real hungry and ready to go after it, they have to have some experience in HR in some capacity. So I could tell you it's really competitive out there right now with municipalities across the board. The building department was the first challenge that I faced a number of years ago. We've gone through a number of commissioners and a number of inspectors. We've hired a number of inspectors that weren't licensed when we first hired them, as most communities were doing, and then train them and get them licensed while they're here. they can't even get in the program unless they're working in a municipality. So it's really working with the state agencies, the MMA, the Collins Center, UMass, to try to get more training in. But, you know, we have right now, we have a grant in the city from the Collins Center on succession planning to help us lay out a plan for succession planning citywide. Because it was that much of an issue, I had asked that's what our application was this year, to try to get that grant to bring in some succession planning from them. So they're gonna be coming in and starting that program to, you know, try to figure out if we can lay out a trail to do that for our employees. So, but it's not gonna happen today or tomorrow. Right now, I have to hire an HR director, and this was, again, directed toward an HR director, because this was done before I found out that we were losing the HR director. But I understand all your issues with the possible need for safeguards and things like that. But like I said, if you'd consider doing a sunset, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, and I know my fellow councilors have comments, so I was just going to add, I was going to bring up the succession planning grant that you mentioned, Mayor Vigil, and I definitely think, you know, people aren't really going into municipal government, and so the pipeline is really challenging. So there are, you know, many municipalities fighting for very few candidates. So I definitely resonate with the challenges that the city is going through, and hopefully, you know, the results of that succession planning will be really helpful for us in the training programs that you mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman. For the sake of time, I would like to start maybe discussing the verbiage, if there's any changes. We'll go to Mr. President.
Counselor works too.
Thank
you, Mr. Chair. So I want to just put this in perspective for the councilors. So what the mayor's proposing is to ask for a two-step authority. Remember, when we go out to post, we post at step one. All right. I mean, so what he's asking for is some wiggle room. Can he go up 2 steps, you know, without having to come back to the council? If he wants more than that, as you've seen, he has to come back to the council. So, from my opinion, giving the mayor that latitude, I'm okay with, because then my opinion, the catch-all is it's got to be in the budget. So he can't just, you know, do it without having funds available in the budget. So that's one. So the 2 steps, I'm really okay with. The part I'm not excited about is, I'm good at the time of hiring. I'm not excited about the part during employment, because now, once you've come in, you've accepted those steps, to me, you're in and you're on the path. So you're looking for wording changes.
Thank you.
My stuff I'm okay with, again, staying with the salary part as written, but deleting the or during employment. I just don't think that, you know, because now we're picking and choosing when we're going to adjust people's salary. Mr. Mayor, I'll let you weigh in for any challenges there. So that's my comments on the salary. Comments on the vacation. And again, I'll go from my private experience, and I'm sure Councilor Doucette will share it. If I'm trying to bring in a seasoned HR officer, I'm trying to bring in a seasoned finance director, auditor, collector, you know, they have X amount of years of experience that they have gained and accumulated vacation time as part of that job. They're not going to come in and start at 2 weeks vacation. I mean, it's just not. So having the mayor with that option to allow an extra week is fine. If he wants more than that, guess what? He's coming down to see us, which is fine, and I'm okay with it. So again, to me, this gets us out of, and again, my opinion, the stuff that he would be able to have at his disposal without having to come down to the council. And they're little changes, they're not significant, but if he wants more, he wants to start at step 7, wants to add 5 weeks vacation, he's coming to see us. But this, and again, my opinion, and then, Mr. Chair, if you want to put a sunset clause on it that says, hey, it's good till, pick a date, June of 2022, and if it seems to be working okay, you know, we can take it up in June of 2022 again, or pick the end date or sunset date. And we've done sunset clauses in the past, and they've worked okay. But again, those are my comments. So just on the salary, my suggestion, if you're inclined, is to delete the or during employment portion, and then the Vacation, Mr. Chair, I'm good with that. The one I have has the word "any" in the 5th line down. I would get rid of "any" because, again, that vacation is just being offered at the time of employment. It's not being offered after you've been here 2 years, I'm going to go
Correct.
adjust your vacation time.
So same verbiage, just get rid of anything other than at the higher date for both paragraphs.
Yeah, I think that's what this is for.
I'm just summing it up. I just want everyone on the same page.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Any comments about that? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much. I think that that would actually be a fair, because I think it's important to have it as part of the time of employment. You know, I think having a sunset clause would be, 2 years would be well worth having at this point. And at that point, we can see how many times this has been exercised. So,
I'm fine without the sunset clause, just because if it doesn't work, we can always change the order on our own, I would assume, but.
how do we know when it's being used? I mean, that's the issue. Especially, my concern is tracking the weeks, the extra week of vacation. How do we actually track that?
Okay. Councilor Doucette.
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with this. I just don't see the need for a sunset clause, because if you have someone in that position and you're paying them X number of dollars and X number of vacation, and you advertise the position, you're going to advertise it at least of what that person's making, all right? So I just don't understand the need that all of a sudden someone leaves and you revert back to what the salary was. Sunset sometimes works for some things, but I don't see it in an employment contract.
Yes. Mr.
Point of
President.
information. So the sunset clause would merely be, after, it's just say end of 2022, or some date out in the future, these 2 items go away. And they have to be re-voted on at that 2022 timeframe if we want to make them permanent. Or if the mayor forgets to send it down, guess what? The end of 2022, whenever that sunset is, it goes away. Does not touch anybody's salary. And we're not going to say you're going to go back to a previous salary. That will not
But
happen.
still, in the pay scale, we probably still have steps 1 through 7. So the next person can be hired at anything between, say, steps 1 through 7. But I just don't see the need for a sunset, that's all.
If there's any other discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Councilor Roby.
Yes, Councilor Roby.
Thank you. I guess I do have a couple of questions, and I guess listening to all of this, I am kind of unclear on 2 things. One, Councilor Landers keeps talking about contract. My understanding is all other employees are employees who do not have a contract. My other question is vacation time. I believe I've heard 2 weeks vacation. The language in the code says that you earn vacation 1 day for every month that you work. So nobody comes in with 2 weeks of vacation automatically. They have to work to get it. So I guess I'm a visual kind of person. I was hired February 10th, 2020. And maybe it's not going to work because I guess I was going with the ability for the mayor to all of a sudden increase somebody. So say I'm hired on this month, November. So I earn a vacation day for every month, but all of a sudden I have 5 extra days. Now somebody else, it's taken them 5 years to get 10 days of vacation, or it's taken them. So why? And then it's also not clear, do they continually get another week added? If at 5 years they get 10 days, but they already had 10 days, at 5 years, do they now automatically bump up to 15 days? Or do they stay the extra time the whole time? And then I guess I would go back to, I was under the impression listening to a couple of counselors. I think, as it was pointed out before, we have the ability to approve this for anybody that the mayor brings us to. I have real concerns with just putting it in the code to allow the mayor at any time that he wants to just do this. I would really like to be able to have the conversation as a city council to say it's important enough to hire this person. For those that 2 steps isn't going to cut it, obviously it's not really going to make any difference. So if it's not going to cut it, whether the mayor can just automatically do it or we have to do it as a vote, then I don't think that that's really that important. But I know and maybe I lose track of time, I believe we did a recent change of salaries so that we were pretty current with surrounding communities. So if we need to do that again, I guess that's not a bad conversation to have. But I really question why we need to put this in the code. And if we put it in the code, why we need to have a sunset clause on it if, as the mayor stated, he's not going to be using it for a while. We won't be able to know whether it worked. Then I guess I would do one final question with the vacation. It has a sentence at the end: an increase in annual vacation time above 1 week shall require approval. Yet I think it says that the mayor is authorized to grant up to 1 week. So why would we need to approve? Is it just that if he wants to increase it by more than 1, he'd have to come back to the council?
Mr. President.
Does that really need to be there?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So hearing what Councilor Roby and the other councilors, there's no time requirement here. So I would recommend councilors provide the chair with comments. The committee postpone a decision to a future meeting date so that all the comments can come in, get your questions answered, because 2 reasons. 1, we've got a meeting that we're running extremely late on. And 2, I don't think we're going to sit here and hammer something out just based on listening to the. So, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that you postpone and ask the councils to provide written comments to you in the committee so that we can discuss it at a future time.
Mr. Chair, Councilor Oram.
Yes, Councilor Oram.
Yeah, I don't know if you're seeing the raised hands, so I had it up for about 10 minutes or so, but just a quick comment. Questions, as the president said, can be answered on the outside. That's not a problem. I just want to concur with Councilor Roby. I was pretty much wanting to say the same thing. I think at this point, it might be the time for us to say, let's look at the whole picture, not just individually as we hire people. Even though we may have done a salary survey not too long ago, the dynamics in city and municipal government has changed tremendously. And as we hear from just trying to attract people in the city of Marlborough, I'd suggest it's time to start doing another salary survey, not just look to the west, look to the south, north, and east. We have got to be competitive, and if we're not, we're going to find ourselves in this ordeal quite often. So I'd suggest that, especially as we all know, it's very hard now to attract municipal employees. Being one myself, I know the problem, but I would like to see a level playing field on this matter for all our employees who are not represented by unions, but maybe mid-management who cannot have a contract. I think it's only fair. So I cannot support this the way it is. I think I know my answers to the questions I had, but again, that's my statement. Thank you.
Is there a motion to postpone?
Motion to postpone items. Which item is this?
I second that.
Yes.
Any questions or comments? I will make the comment that I think that my committee was ready to vote on this tonight. So the people that were not on the personnel committee, I expect something in my inbox. So please do your homework so we can get this resolved. Thank you. All in favor of postponing order number 18108? All in favor? That's 3 votes. It has been postponed.
Motion to adjourn.
I second that. Any other questions? All in favor of adjourning? 1, 2, and 3. We adjourned at 7:55. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I appreciate it. It's been very long. Thank you.